Looking back, I really should have seen it coming. Hitting 35 felt like the right time to finally put myself first. Just one night where I wasn't patching up someone else's disaster, smoothing over family drama, or footing another bill I never agreed to pay. I reserved the rooftop of my building for the occasion. Champagne on ice, mellow jazz drifting through the air, and only people I genuinely enjoyed being around. For once, I let myself believe it could actually be about me. My name's Casey, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the one holding everyone together, even when they didn't realize they were tearing me apart. But that night I told myself things would be different. That night was supposed to belong to me. Then my little sister Tessa stood up, champagne flute in hand, her grin stretched a little too wide, a little too practiced. "Before Casey gives her speech, I have something to share," she piped up. "Julian and I are engaged." The room exploded with cheers. Glasses clinked all around. My mom dabbed at imaginary tears and clutched her pearls for effect. My dad barely glanced up. "And guess what else?" Tessa added, locking eyes with me. "My incredible big sister Casey is going to be my maid of honor, and she's paying for the whole wedding. We're getting married in Amalfi." I honestly can't recall what I said. Probably something like, "Of course." Maybe, "Congratulations." But as everyone else celebrated, I forced a smile and swallowed that old, familiar ache in my throat. They all expected me to cave to pick up the tab again. What they didn't realize was that I'd already started packing. And this time I wasn't just leaving, I was tossing out the entire script they'd written for me. The rest of the evening blurred by in a haze of forced grins and awkward hugs. People kept coming up to congratulate me, as if being volunteered to bankroll a destination wedding was some kind of honor. I played along just like I always had. That was the part I'd been cast in since I was a kid. Tessa soaked up the attention like she needed it to breathe. My mom hovered at her side, eyes shining with pride, while my dad faded into his usual background role, silent unless the conversation turned to money. At one point Tessa leaned over and whispered, "You're not upset, are you? I mean, this is huge, Casey." I just couldn't wait to tell everyone. She never waited, she never had to. 4 years younger, prettier in that Instagram perfect way, and always the one the world seemed to make space for. She played the sweet little sister and I played the dependable one. That meant I covered her college tuition when she dropped out halfway through, took over our parents' mortgage when Dad's real estate gamble tanked, and yes, even paid for Tessa's emergency nose job after her breakup with some C-list DJ. They all assumed I'd forgotten, but I hadn't. Later that night, after the last guest had left and Tessa disappeared with Julian, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened a folder on my laptop I'd updating for years. I called it Contributions, a spreadsheet tracking every dollar I'd poured into my family's bottomless pit. Tuition, $28,400. Mortgage, $45,000. Tessa's emergency surgery, $12,700. Random expenses, clothes, bills, flights, handouts, at least another $30,000. Grand total, $216,412. And that's not even counting interest. Or my peace of mind. I stared at that number until it stopped looking like money and started looking like a reason. They thought I'd just roll over for this latest scheme, but they had no idea what I was planning. This time I had a strategy, and it all started with one well-placed lie. The next morning I showed up to brunch wearing the same polished, polite smile I'd worn for years, one that looked real but never quite reached my eyes. My mom was already there, flipping through a bridal magazine like she was the one getting married. My dad barely looked up from his phone. Tessa strolled in 20 minutes late, waving her ring around like it hadn't already stolen my birthday. "So," she chirped, sliding into the booth, "did you call the venue yet? They need the deposit by Monday." I took a slow sip of coffee and nodded. "Of course. I'll take care of it." That was all they needed. They didn't ask how or when, never did, because I'd always come through. Only this time I wouldn't. Instead, that afternoon I finalized my transfer to our company's European office, a move I'd been quietly arranging for months. Lisbon, a city where nobody knew me as the fixer. A place where I didn't have to be anyone's safety net. By Monday I'd shut down every joint account Tessa could touch. The credit cards I'd foolishly co-signed for her canceled. I watched the notifications roll in one after another. Transaction declined, card no longer valid, insufficient funds. She shot me a frantic text. "Hey, something's up with the joint card. Can you fix it?" I texted back, looking into it. Probably just a bank glitch. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Then I opened a fresh spreadsheet and named it Phase 2, Dismantle Gently. I spent the next week weaving a web of carefully constructed lies, fake emails from vendors, phony contracts, made-up schedules. I even whipped up a doctored venue confirmation from a fictional Amalfi contact named Sophia Demetrio. Tessa believed every word. One night she burst into my office, practically buzzing with excitement. The planner says we need to get started on flowers. Do you have the Florence florist's number? Without missing a beat, I said, Sophia's working on the final quote. She says she can shave 20 grand off if we lock it in this week. Tessa's face lit up. See? I knew you'd make it perfect. She kissed my cheek and floated out while I went right back to packing my things. By that point, my Lisbon lease was signed, the movers were booked, and my apartment was officially listed with a realtor. Even HR thought I was heading to Denver for a leadership retreat. I'd left just enough clues for everyone to buy the story I wanted them to. Julian naturally started getting nervous. He called every day asking about deposits, dress fittings, vendor timelines. I gave him the same answer each time. Don't worry, I've got it all under control. I knew it wasn't wedding nerves, it was money nerves. What Tessa didn't realize, and what I'd confirmed through the private investigator I hired, was that Julian's family wasn't wealthy at all. That supposed inheritance? Just a mountain of debt from a failed import business. He was banking on my money as much as Tessa was. That made the whole thing even more interesting. At night, I'd lie in bed and scroll through the emails I'd set to auto-send. Fake updates, payment confirmations, progress reports, each one crafted to stall, confuse, and reassure. Meanwhile, I was draining accounts, tying up loose ends, erasing myself from every system one by one. They still thought I was handling everything. They had no clue the ground beneath them was already giving way. 2 weeks before my departure, the cracks started to show. Tessa called me 5 times in a single day, panicking about the bridesmaids' dresses. The boutique claimed they hadn't received any deposit. But I told them you'd take care of it, she whined in a voicemail. You said you'd call Sophia. I didn't call her back. Instead I texted, meetings all day. We'll catch up tonight. Everything's under control. That phrase had become my armor. It was short, vague, and just reassuring enough to keep their fantasy alive. And that fantasy was the only thing holding their plans together. At work, I kept my real projects to a minimum, hiding behind spreadsheets full of fake vendor timelines. I even set up a bogus event planning folder in case HR ever peeked at my computer. Meanwhile, I met with my Lisbon manager every week over encrypted calls, ironing out the last details for my transfer. 3 weeks to go and they still had no idea. That's when Julian showed up at my office without warning. He flashed a smile, probably thinking it would win me over. It didn't. Hey, he said, settling into the guest chair. Just wanted to check and make sure everything's on track. Tessa's a little stressed. I nodded, keeping up the act. Absolutely. Everything's right on schedule. Awesome. He glanced around, eyes flicking to my computer screen. You're a lifesaver, Casey. Seriously. We'd be lost without you. I smiled even as I pictured burning every last bit of his fake charm to the ground. After he left, I updated my detonation schedule. That's what I called it, a color-coded countdown to the day I vanished. Flights booked, final wire transfer set, all my assets moved offshore. Even my mail forwarding was ready to go. They weren't just going to be caught off guard, they were about to be wiped from my life. That night, Maribel, my best friend since college and the only person I trusted, called. They still buying it? Hook, line, and mortgage. I asked, flipping through an old photo album of childhood holidays, Tessa always front and center, me just out of the shot. Maribel let out a long sigh. Casey, are you sure you don't just want to blow up at them? Go full public meltdown? That's their native tongue, chaos, waterworks, drama. I grinned. I speak in consequences. He paused, then laughed. Wow, you've practiced that line, haven't you? Twice. Maybe 3 times. We both cracked up, but the truth was I'd rehearsed every bit of this, each move, every withdrawal, all the lies. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just reacting. I was calling the shots. The next morning, Tessa pinged me again. Venue says they never got the contract. Can you resend? I shot back a screenshot of a fake email thread, CC'd my imaginary Sophia, and attached a PDF full of Italian phrases I'd lifted from a travel blog. Already resent. Probably just a delay on their end. I'll follow up. She didn't bother to thank me. She never did. Instead, she sent a selfie with a bridal magazine captioned, "We'll make it perfect, thanks to you." All I could think was, no Tessa, we won't. But you'll never forget me. They still believed they were steering the ship, that I was quietly keeping everything afloat behind the scenes just like always. But the first real crack showed up on the day of the bridal shower. Tessa had told everyone it would be at my apartment. Invitations went out, guests got dressed up, balloons were delivered, and Tessa even posted an Instagram story the night before. "Can't wait to celebrate at my sister's place tomorrow. She always makes everything magical." What she didn't realize was that I'd sold my place 3 days earlier. I was already in Lisbon, sipping café com latte on my new balcony, watching the sun rise over the Alfama district, while Tessa and my parents circled my old building in Beacon Hill, trying to sweet-talk the doorman. Maribel, who'd volunteered to be my eyes and ears, sent me updates like she was live-tweeting a celebrity meltdown. "They're here," she texted. "Tessa's yelling at the doorman. Your mom is fake crying into a lace napkin." I laughed. "Let me guess, she's blaming me for forgetting my own party?" "Nope," Maribel replied. "She just asked the new owners to let her in because her daughter lives there." Correction, I texted back, used to live there. The retired couple who bought my apartment had moved in the day before. When Tessa tried to push her way inside, they called the building manager. When he wouldn't help, she called me 6 times. Then she texted, "What the hell is going on? Why are there strangers in your apartment?" I didn't respond. Instead, I posted an Instagram story of a cobblestone alleyway, red-tiled balconies, a glass of sangria in my hand, and the caption, "Freedom tastes like citrus and silence." 10 minutes later, my phone exploded. Missed calls from Tessa, Mom, Dad, even Julian. My inbox filled with passive-aggressive emails. "Where are the deposits? Why isn't anyone answering at the venue? Have you confirmed the caterer?" Even the wedding planner joined in, CCing me on her latest. "We will be canceling all arrangements unless we receive confirmation and payment by end of day." I stayed silent. Maribel kept the updates coming. "Tessa's crying in the lobby now. She just called Julian useless. He looks like he's about to run for it. Your mom's asking the doorman if you've had a breakdown. They're calling every real estate agent in the city to find out what happened to your apartment." At one point, my dad texted, "You are tearing this family apart." I almost laughed out loud because I wasn't the one who broke anything. They'd built this whole mess on the idea that I was reliable, that I could be controlled. They expected me to keep playing a part one never wanted. But I'd already set fire to the script. Tessa always thought if she cried hard enough, someone would come fix it. Usually, that someone was me. Not this time. The morning after the bridal shower fiasco, she sent a barrage of messages, each one more desperate than the last. "I'm flying to Lisbon. We need to fix this together. I know you're upset, but you don't have to run away. Please, Casey, just tell me why you're doing this." I didn't reply. Instead, I checked her flight number. Maribel had already tracked it down and confirmed she'd be landing the next day. Except her passport had expired 5 years ago. Maribel texted, "She's booked the flight, but TSA might stop her before Portugal does. She won't make it through immigration." I replied, "That's by design." Weeks earlier, I'd quietly filed a report through the Spanish consulate's online portal, flagging Tessa as a potential financial risk due to a history of unpaid debts and suspicious transactions. I used her real name, her real birthday, her real mess, just like she'd always used mine. So when she landed in Milan, Tessa was immediately pulled aside for secondary screening. Maribel's contact at the airport caught the aftermath on video. Tessa, red-faced and sobbing, waving a folder of bridal mood boards at a weary customs officer. By the time she was put on the next flight home, she'd managed to cause a scene in 2 languages, and not a single person came to her rescue. That night, I met up with Marcus for dinner. Yes, the same Marcus who left me 2 years ago because I was too wrapped up in my family's drama. Apparently, watching me dismantle that drama from afar had sparked something in him again. Or maybe he just missed having dinner with someone who didn't ask for a loan between courses. We sipped vinho verde on a rooftop as the city sparkled around us. He looked at me over his glass and grinned. "You're glowing, you know. That's what peace looks like," I told him. "It's a new feeling for me." My phone buzzed again, Tessa's name lighting up the screen. I sighed and held it up. "Showtime." Marcus nodded. Let her talk, but just this once. I answered and put her on speaker. Right away her voice was shaky. You set this up. You knew I wouldn't make it into Portugal. Kept my tone even. You're right. I did. But you've always managed to help me. Not anymore. There was a long pause. So what am I supposed to do now? Start with a job. Maybe two. You've got bills to pay, Tessa. She went quiet, then tried a new angle. Julian left. He says I lied, that I never booked the venue, that I forged your signature. Did you? I just needed more time. You said you'd take care of it. No, you said I would. Then you signed my name. Silence hung between us. I opened a folder on my laptop, pulling up the stack of evidence, scanned signatures, emails, texts, all neatly filed. You're in real trouble, Tessa. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Julian says he's pressing charges. Good. Maybe that'll finally get your attention. And Mom and Dad, they're heartbroken. They say you broke the family. They said the same thing when I wouldn't co-sign another loan for their kitchen remodel. Forgive me if I'm not exactly moved. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uncertain. I'm sorry, Casey. Really. I didn't realize how bad it was. I never meant. You never cared to find out. That's the difference. And with that I ended the call. A couple hours later she texted again. Please, just one more chance. I sent back a single line. One chance is all you ever had. The next morning Julian's lawyer emailed me, asking for a formal statement for the fraud case. I sent over everything, documents, screenshots, payment records. Within the hour he replied that Tessa had agreed to a written confession in exchange for a reduced settlement. That same day, a viral wedding blog ran the whole story. Scammer Bride of Lisbon, the $200,000 fantasy that crashed and burned. Maribel texted, your sister's trending. I opened Twitter and watched Tessa's meltdown unfold in real time. Her GoFundMe was shut down, vendors were calling her out by name, and in the middle of it all she posted an old photo of us, me holding a cake, her blowing out the candles. The caption read, I didn't realize how much I took until she stopped giving. Too little, too late. That evening my dad tried calling. I let it go to voicemail. For once his voice wasn't angry, it sounded small. Casey, we didn't know. We never meant for it to get this far. No, they never meant to get caught. The chaos didn't die down overnight. Tessa's name trended for 3 days straight. Wedding blogs picked apart every detail of her destination scam, and vendors lined up to share their stories. My inbox overflowed, relatives picking sides, strangers asking if it was real, my parents swinging between denial and guilt. I ignored it all. Instead, I fluffed the pillows on my Lisbon balcony, topped off my wine, and opened a new email. Senior Strategy Director offer confirmed. I smiled. This time the title was mine. No strings, no favors, no family debts dragging behind me. Maribel called. Your mom's crying on Facebook Live again. Tessa's hiding out. Julian's lawyer says she's trying to cut a deal. You okay? I'm better than okay. Because this was never about revenge. Revenge is just a reaction. This was freedom. I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped paying for their fantasies. They called it betrayal, abandonment, cruelty. I called it honesty, a truth I'd swallowed for years while they mistook my silence for agreement. I was done explaining, done justifying, done rescuing people who only saw me as a resource. Tessa emailed one last time. I'm sorry. I'm trying to change. I didn't answer. Some stories don't need closure. They just need to end. And this was mine from the first page to the last. I didn't vanish. I finally showed up for myself.